Yeah, I come to that. I will go by one, I said. I will go one by one and then see that if any question on that. So, I do share with you.
Hello.
Oh, you got a nice report, Vivek.
If
Vivek, I couldn't hear you.
yeah, are you able to hear me now? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay. So can all of you mute yourself?
Pardon? Can all of you?
Mute yourself because there's some
Okay,
background
sure.
voices are coming. Right. So what I will do, the people who have attempted, I will go one by one here. And my focus will be on where we could not correct the question, or if there is any, all are correct, then I will just skip it. And but many times when you see the explanation, you are okay with the explanation and there is no further question. So so I will go one by one. If you have any question, if you have any clarification, then I will hold on that question, and then otherwise I will explain you what is my reasoning or why this answer is right. Okay. Any question on the first answer? Because two people have made it wrong. Nothing. We go to the second is fine. Third. Third is okay. It's fine. Fifth is okay. Yeah.
How to go in a sequential manner, or are we going to talk about specific questions like quizzes that we would need more
Either way
experience?
is good. I was just thinking that we should not go randomly and go one by one. But if there are less number of questions, we can go randomly also. You have, I think, let's go that way. You have any question on any of the questions? Then we can attend this, and then anyone, or we will take this from all the people. Okay. Let's
Maybe
start from
sequential
the
will be better, Vivek.
Okay.
Like quickly you can give an overview and then proceed further. Like any of us have any concerns, we can talk about it more.
Should I go sequentially then?
That's what I prefer. I'm not sure about the team.
Okay, so what I will do, see, I will only discuss where there is any doubt or there is any question. I don't want to discuss if all are clear about the answer. Yeah, so I will just go one by one. Please hold me on the question you want to discuss. Okay, so fourth is fine. Fifth, one person has done incorrectly. Sixth is fine. Seventh is also okay. Okay.
Vivek, I have a point. Vivek, I have a point to discuss on question number 3.
Yeah, tell me.
Yes. I mean, it seems to be, yeah, it seems to be simple, but
okay. Okay. Okay.
It just got into a selection.
I read it out and then I will explain. I will tell my explanation. What is which process in the project integration management knowledge area deal with making decisions on change? No, either integration. Oh, this is integration. Okay, sorry. This is you're talking about framework. Third question is the best time to assign a project manager to a project is during definitely initiation, right? If it is planning, then will be too late. And second thing, when we talking about project charter is a part of initiation, and project manager get assigned through project charter. Make sense?
Yeah, but my confusion was like, even as part of the project selection, project manager will be involved in the project, right? Just to get more familiarity with the project as well. It's basically an advantage. So how do we decide on whether it is an initiation or a project selection? For sure, it is not planning and integration.
Okay, you are talking about project selection, which is before project initiation. That's what you're saying?
That's right.
Okay, see, the project start with the initiation. The project selection, when you bidding process are not part of it. Once the project is approved by the customer and it has come to you to start, then the initiation happens. Okay, if a project manager is already assigned at that time, he is not called project manager till that time the project is started. His role is more a pre-project preparation or the pre-sales work actually. Till the time project starts in the initiation, you assign this person as a project manager in the project charter. Till the time this project, even informally he is a project manager, but officially he is not a project manager on that project.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go to the fifth is one, sixth is fine, seventh is also fine, eighth is also okay, 9, one person has done it correctly. Any question on that? 10th has majority of the people have made incorrect. In fact, all the people are incorrect. Let's discuss 10. Which of the following is an activity of monitoring and control process group? Create work breakdown structure, implement recognition and reward system, ensure timely completion of the project, obtain sign-off on the deliverables of the project. Okay, let me say it again. Okay, I say it again. Which of the following Hello? 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 Okay.
Vivek, are you saying something?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Vivek?
Yeah, yeah. Are you able to hear me now? Okay. Let me go ahead. Which of the following
Yes.
is an activity of monitoring and control process group? Create work breakdown structure, because we are creating work breakdown structure. It's a planning process. When implementation, it becomes an execution. Ensure timely completion of the project, again execution, because we're talking about ensure timely completion of the project. Obtaining sign off of the deliverable of the project, that's a control process, because your deliverable is complete and you're getting sign off from the, so it is basically you are going to the customer and checking if it is okay as per the customer, or you are ensuring that it is as per the, it is absolutely fine as per the customer. So that is a kind of checking, a controlling process. Okay, and the 11th is fine. 12th is, one person is incorrect. 13 also. 14, I think 13 and 14 also many people have done incorrectly. Let me go to the 13 one. The project team has just completed initial project schedule and budget. Next thing to do is to determine quality standards, acquire project team, begin execution, start monitoring and control. See what the question is saying, that it is just initiation happen. Acquire project team, begin execution, start monitoring control. So B and C are actually execution, and D is part of the monitoring and control. So only thing is the first one is part of planning. So after initiation, it is the planning which will come. Okay, 14th is which of the following is the most appropriate thing to do during the planning process group? That is 14. The answer is the look for any probable incident that may impact project in future. Which of the following is the most appropriate thing to do during the planning process group? Look for any probable incident that may impact project in future. Update the schedule based on late deliverables. That will happen during execution. Increase the effectiveness of the process. Again, an execution process. Review business. When it comes to review, they are either execution or monitoring and control. Review business case to justify the investment in the project. So review is either ensuring that things should be proper or checking that things are proper or not. So they become either monitoring and control or execution. Now looking ahead is actually planning. So which is only A. Look for a probable incident that may impact project in future. Right? Then 15, one person has done incorrect. If any question is there, I will take this up. Then 17th and 18th, 17, 18 and 19th are like that most of the people had done incorrect. I think it will be good if I can show you the question. Right? That would be better. Go for 17. Let me do one thing. I'll go to the question actually. It doesn't go to the question. Okay, it is sorted like that. No, it doesn't go to the question. Give me a moment. Let me check if I can display the question. Should I move ahead? Somebody is having question, right? Should I go to the next question? The 18 says all of the following are typical concern of the team members in a matrix organization. See, calculation of the performance bonus is done by HR. It's not done by employee. It is anyway not true. Now wondering who will do the appraisal? Quite possible, because there are two bosses. Reporting to multiple bosses, that is also true. And communication is too complex to handle. Yeah, it could be. What it is not possible is calculating the performance. It is never done by employee, it is done by HR.
But Vivek, how about option D? I mean, why the employee is concerned about the communication?
No, it's saying communication is too complex to handle. It is possible in the matrix organization, that's the case. The communication is complex.
Yeah, but I don't think employees will be concerned like if the communication is complex or simple.
Right, they have to, because every employee or everyone has to communicate in the complex environment. It becomes complex for everyone. It's not just for project manager. If there are multiple stakeholders, it is a tougher situation for everyone, even team members, because you don't know what their roles are. Even whatever the role is, if there are too many people if there are many stakeholders, which is a typical scenario in matrix organization, then it becomes complex and it is difficult to handle. That is one of the very prominent characteristic of the matrix organization. Or I will say it is a primary problem. Communication become a primary problem in matrix organization.
Okay.
Okay, let me go to the next. It is a team member working on an assignment for some time. Sometime is raising objection about the measurement that will be based on the project to assess performance. He feels that some of the measures related to activities he's working are not valid measurements in which project management process that project is currently in. It is definitely not initiation, because the measurements are happening, so planning is past, and because we are not talking about the difference between the standard and what is measured, we are just talking about that measurements are not right. So it's not controlling, monitoring and control. Monitoring and control means you are measuring against the standard, and you are saying it is low, it is high, or the deviation is that much, means you are measuring the deviation. When it comes to deviation, it becomes monitoring. When you talk about action, it becomes controlling. When the person is raising concern about that measurements are not right, basically he is in a phase where the measurements are happening. You are collecting the data. When you are collecting the data, that's actually execution phase. Right?
So Vivek, just wanted to ask you, does it mean that in this situation, monitoring individual performance is not part of monitoring and controlling? It will be part of execution?
Can you say it again? A little louder?
Yeah. What I want to ask is that monitoring individuals' performances is not part of monitoring and controlling?
No, people's performance is part of the monitoring and controlling. In fact, people performance is not part of the monitoring, and people's performance is part of the execution.
Okay. Okay.
So if you see in the HR management, there is no process in monitoring and control.
Mm-hmm.
One is planning, 3 are in execution.
Okay.
Right? Okay. I will search through, because now I cannot check which one is actually clear. You just stop me on the question. I will not read it, but if you want to stop me, please stop me on that, because I cannot check how many people have done this incorrectly or correctly. Or maybe I can see actually. No, I cannot. Okay. So this is the 20th. Or you tell me which one, where to switch actually. Is 22nd fine? Should we discuss 23rd?
I had a concern on 24. Okay.
Let me, Kishore is talking about 23rd. Okay, let's discuss 23rd. Okay, some managers are debating on implementing of PMO. They are wondering about the actual value it will bring to the organization. All of the following are correct about the values PMO bring to the organization, except the PMO serve as a disciplinary organization for project managers. The PMO helps the organization align its projects around strategic organization objectives. The PMO provides the organization with project management standards, methods, and procedures. The PMO helps to mentor and train project managers within the organization. Right, so A is the right answer. Okay, so what is the, do we
So
have
Vivek,
the
you mean
right
like the PMO does not impose a discipline?
No, it is not a disciplinary, it is a support group. It doesn't have the teeth actually.
Yeah, but it can instill in, like it can standardize some policies or processes, and
Yes.
so it can guide the project manager.
Yeah, it can do. It can
Managers,
define the
right?
process, it can define the policies, it can escalate the matter also, but cannot take an action. Disciplinary action cannot be taken by
Okay.
PM.
Then how the option B, I mean, how does PMO help to align its projects around organizational strategic objectives?
Okay, see, the thing is that the whatever you are, like you said, talking about standard method procedures, and whatever the PMO is facilitating. PMO is an internal organization driven by the company's policy and procedures. So whatever is getting implemented in the project is as per the company's strategies and company objectives. Like you say, scheduled deviation should be 5%. From where it has come? Has come from the organization standard.
Yeah, but PMO doesn't decide which project to take up, right?
Where it is, PMO helps the organization align the projects around project strategic organization objective. So it's just aligning the projects. It's not taking up the project.
Yeah, I think it's quite confusing between A and B. Even I went wrong with answering B. If you look at the disciplinary organization for project managers, maybe it may not directly impact, but indirectly it still.
It is not a, it cannot take action. It is a support group. It can facilitate, but cannot punish, cannot make the project manager accountable. All these things cannot be done. The only senior management can do, or the managers can do, but the PMO can escalate the matter. But escalation matter is not about, is still a support function, and PMO is a support function.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. On the 24th, okay, what is the organization wants you to manage a project with a very aggressive timeline. You have done an initial assessment of the statement of work, the timeline, resource availability, and the budget. Based on this information, you have reported back to senior management that timeline is too aggressive and it will be impossible to meet given the scope of work. Senior management then asks you what the most effective approach would be employed to compress the timeline, given that the project is fraught with many uncertainties, risk, and is something that the organization has never tried before. The most likely response you would give to address this situation is, you recommend the overlapping phase approach, which would allow work on a subsequent phase to start before the predecessor phase has completed. You know, we have to look that when we do so, this is normally called fast tracking, and it increases the risk on the project, and it is already a very risky project. You recommend an iterative approach. It helps reduce complexity, and it is also useful when partial delivery of a product is beneficial to the stakeholder. Possibly, let's see what are the other options. You recommend the inverse evolutionary phase approach. Since this project sounds more like an R&D project, you have no idea what the real scope is and when you will be done. Innovation cannot be timed on a punch clock. Everything uncertain, not a good. It is not giving any kind of concrete information. Let's see. I think let's look at the D. You recommend the adaptive life cycle approach. It addresses high change, high risk, high uncertainty project effectively as product is gradually developed over multiple iterations. So basically B and D are very close, while D address the situation more appropriately than B. So if I have to pick one, I will pick D over B. The justification here is not addressing the problem this project is facing. While this here, the justification is addressing the problem the project is facing. Right?
Vivek,
Yeah.
I do have a question. Is there a
Yeah.
hello, Vivek?
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So probably I may be wrong. I couldn't figure out this inverse evolutionary approach and the adaptive cycle approach on the hands-out. What I was reading. Is it there in the hands-out which you have shared with us?
I think probably not. Adaptive life cycle approach is somewhere mentioned in PMBOK. It's not defined. It's only the term which has come there. In fact, if you see to answer this question, you need not to know what is adaptive. In fact, if you see the second sentence, this sentence is explaining what is adaptive life cycle approach. This is also explaining this. So you need not to know what exactly these type of cycle are. They are mentioned somewhere, but it is not expected that you will be very clear what is adaptive life cycle approach. Answer.
Yeah, that
Did explain what
that's
exactly it is.
Yeah, that's where the challenge comes for us. Like basically a guy like me who is totally new in this into this project management. We'll be looking around for some solution, and we'll be reading your handout first, and accordingly we will try to answer these questions.
Right.
So that's one of the challenges I face.
Yeah, I agree with you that not everything you will find in the handouts.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
PMBOK, you
Lot of
will not
things have
find
come
everything,
outside.
even though that is mentioned in PMBOK. There is something which we'll gradually learn, and this is one of the. That is why this is one of the part of the whole course.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other question we need to discuss?
So, Vivek, could you please explain what is inverse evolution? Vivek, could you explain what is inverse evolutionary phase?
Even I am not very clear. Let me tell you about it. And but inverse evolutionary is normally we talk about that the something which is already available and we do a kind of re-engineering. I cannot explain you very clearly. Maybe I will come back to you tomorrow on that.
Maybe it's some kind of reverse engineering.
I don't want to guess actually here to explain you. Any other question anyone want to discuss? 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. No? Okay. So let's go to the integration management. And let me go to...
Yeah, no, Vivek, I just wanted to ask you, hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Vivek, I just wanted to ask you on that. Basically, it talks about, crashing timelines, right? Delivering it fast. So, the only answer in that question number 24, which talks about crashing timelines, was about working in parallel mode and delivering it as fast as possible.
I couldn't get your question. Say it again.
Yeah, so the question 24 talks about, basically, it says that you should be, you want to crash the timelines. It has to meet the timelines, right? The only way, out of the 4 options we have, there is only one option which talks about working in parallel mode to reduce the crash the timeline. Okay. Okay. That's the reason why I chose that particular answer for that, being here.
Okay. Another principle which works in that is you only recommend what is feasible. If crashing is not possible in such a project, this is very uncertain, risky, and so many things are there given in that. Crashing will further address add all these things. So the D is better. Instead of you crash and then mess up, it is better you do not crash and try to address the problems of the project.
Okay.
These are the places where actually people go little diverted from the main action. Our job is to deliver the project.
Okay, fine.
So if the aggressive timelines are fine, but if it is not feasible to deliver at an early date, you say no. It's not possible.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Thank you.
So Vivek, can you quickly walk us through 27 and 28? I got really confused there.
Okay, 27 and 28. Following life cycle is a plant-driven approach. Actually, what is there? There's some predictive life cycle approach which is mentioned in PMWAR. Okay, this has come from there. They are predictive and they are adaptive. And that's 27 and 28 are both like that.
Okay.
So in the framework, first 3 chapters, if you maybe in the PMBOK, if you have, if you don't have, then you can search for it. The adaptive and predictive life cycle. Maybe we have not covered in our handouts, and but these are very small questions. But they are there in the questions because such questions are asked, and there is only one line mentioned in the PMBOK somewhere.
Okay.
From the concept point of view, they are not at all important. They are not meaningful much. But somewhere 1 or 2 such questions actually appear on the exam.
Yes, that's what I was worried about, because I'm a guy who usually takes these kind of tests. So these kind of tricky questions will be there in almost every certification.
Yeah, but there are not many actually. So out of 175 questions, you have to attempt 106 questions right. So okay, so almost 61 questions you can make wrong. And that's why I say thus questions do appear sometimes, but they are not in lot of numbers as such. The number is not high. There are few such questions were always there in the exam. So instead of bothering on these some out of the blue questions, because some mentioned in the PMBOK and that has appeared, has little significant about what you implement in the project. We should mainly bother about where the majority of the questions come from. So they are more situational. They talk about more understanding about the project management concepts, and those are the questions which are in majority. And I think we should, if we focus on that, we will easily pass through.
Okay.
So we do not focus too much on such questions. Otherwise, I think the time is too short then.
Yeah.
We will not be able to discussing the concept, but we were discussing the very like flimsy things like such.
Thank you.
Okay. So such things do appear on the exam, on the question paper, on the questions which you attempt. This is one of the advantage of doing it. But during the PPT etc., we may not talk about them. Okay, so let's go to this. I see one or two are incorrect here, but I do not see any major thing. Please let me know if anything like that. I say question number 15 is something which is also, even question number 14. Anything before that? Let me go to 14. A project manager has taken the responsibility of the project management first time on the first project. It is best for the project manager during planning to rely on one of the following for better chances of success. So one is historical information, his/her past experience, information from his team member, and his/her intuition. So I am sure that D nobody would have clicked. His experience, again, because he is not experienced person, his experience is not so reliable. Now only the contest is between A and C, which is more reliable. So I suggest you that A is more reliable than C, because team members do not talk about facts, they talk about their perception. And everybody has a different perception of the same thing. It is like that. If you give a book to read to 10 people and ask them what they have learned from that book, all 10 people probably will tell you something different. The book is same. So book is a historical information, and what people are telling is what they have understood from that. So facts are there in the book, rest everything is perception. Make sense? Go to 15.
Vivek, can we go to 13 once?
Sure, sure. Okay, 13. Okay. You're a project manager on a project. There is a policy that all changes that cost over 5% of the budget need to be approved by sponsor, but smaller changes could be approved by management. One of your stakeholders submitted a change request that requires 8% increase in the budget. If you divide this change request into two parts, both will be below 5%. What is the best way to handle this situation? See, this is not only, there is a subject called professional and code of professional conduct. Okay, so you do the right thing, that is also important. Actually, the increase in the budget is 8%. If you divide it by 4, and because of that, it deserves sponsor's approval. Now you dividing it into 2, making it 4%, actually trying to bypass the approval of a sponsor, which is not only incorrect but also unethical. So B is the right answer. Request approval from the sponsor. There is no need to split it.
But here, like option A, if you choose option A, and we are working with the stakeholder to break the change into 2. So how come, what is unethical in that?
Absolutely. Why you are trying to break the change request into 2?
I mean, we don't know, like it may be because of the scope, or it can be, if it is possible to make it into 2, that means the deliverable also is accepted for each part of it, right?
Now let's talk about in the context of the question. Okay, let's do not assume anything else. Just talk about
Okay.
in the context of the question, what the information given in the question, and then give the answer, which is the, and you have to, there could be many answers which are very near to each other. We need to select the best answer. So there may be possible that 2 answers are right, but we have to select one, and that should be the best one out of it. Even then, Jaira, even if the stakeholder is a sponsor, then we have to request for the approval. We should not go for breaking it in internal pieces. Why should we break? The sponsor says break it, then you can break it. Because if you break it, it will bypass the process, and which will be incorrect. There is a reason for keeping this limit, that we need to have a sponsor's approval. That reason will be compromised. Your relationship is do matters, but if this is the case, then there is a reason for which the approval is kept there after 5%. Then we will be compromising on that reason.
I agree, Vivek, but seems the question is a bit tricky.
Now, in my opinion, this is in practice and this for question. Both the cases, it should be that way. Though I know there are several incidents of breaking this and bypassing that. It's not right actually. And if it is caught in some kind of audit, the project manager is in trouble, let me tell you. It is incorrect, bypassing any process and trying to do. If anybody in the audit catch hold of this, that actually it was one and it is broken into 2 pieces, and the approval is not taken, the project manager is in trouble now. Even right now on the ground. So my suggestion is don't do like this. Yes. Let's face the situation. What will happen?
But Vivek, on the other hand, like if stakeholder comes, like he presents a change request, and as a project manager we evaluate and we see that the budget is increasing. So maybe the stakeholder has an intention, like if that is the case, he may want to cut it down or something. So should we not be updating stakeholder about this?
You can, if the stakeholders cut himself and say, okay, don't do the whole change request, do the half change request, that is fine for you, because the request has been slashed, but you don't try to break into 2 pieces.
Okay. I mean, I understood, like it's like work with the stakeholder means like we are educating or we are updating stakeholder, like this is the case, and if he wants to, then he can break it.
If you see the question and the answer, it looks like that you are trying to avoid the situation, of getting approval from the response. No other meaning can be taken out of the A. If there is an explanation after that, which tells that okay, we are trying to break the change request for ABC reason, then I can understand. If only this is the context, then that's the only meaning that you're trying to avoid the sponsor's approval.
Yeah, and just in addition to it, like if you look at the question, it doesn't talk about the stakeholder demanding to divide the request by 500.
Right.
2%. Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's move on. Which next question you want to discuss? I don't want to go one by one on. Let's jump to the questions which you want to discuss. Because many times, though the question is, most of the people have attempted it incorrectly, but explanation normally acceptable. So if that is the case, there is a point discussing that.
Vivek, can we look at 15, please, question number?
15, okay. Okay. With respect to change, focus of the project manager should be on implementing changes, preventing unnecessary changes, informing to all stakeholders, recording and tracking the changes. Okay, let's understand this way. Recording and tracking the changes is a office work actually. Anybody can do. Okay, the project manager's focus should not be here. Inform to all stakeholders. You can inform, but it doesn't help anyway. Okay, so focus should not be in informing the people. The focus should be on the action. So there are two actions, implementing changes, and second is preventing unnecessary changes. Okay, so if I have to select, I will select B because it will help me to do a more smooth project by selecting B than A. A will create a lot of problems, and it is talking about preventing unnecessary changes, not the changes which are required. So therefore, when we discuss about this situation, we discuss that when the change comes, your first job is to qualify the change. Means this change is really required or not. If it is not required, you should see that it should not get implemented.
Okay, I mean, in relation to the question number 13 we were discussing a while ago, I just thought because if the change comes from the client, so project manager, will he be in a position to decide if it is required or not, because client wanted it? So I thought informing to stakeholders is right.
I
but
keep
as you
telling this
mentioned,
thing again and again that client is not expert, vendor is an expert.
Okay. Right.
Suggest, you may not be able to decide, but you will put the right suggestion. Your suggestion, recommendation should be yours. The recommendation, suggestion should be yours, and they should be right. And you should prevent unnecessary changes. Client may come out from the blue and may talk to 100 people here, and they give him some suggestion, and he come to you with the suggestion. But if it is not required in the project, you say, yeah, this is not looking at right. You should provide your analysis. You should provide justification that why it is unnecessary. And I'm sure if you can prove that it is unnecessary, no client want to mess up his project.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, Vivek, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26.
Vivek, I think Vivek 25.
25. 25. Okay.
We got 16.
Vendor has notified you that a shipment will be 3 weeks late. This will delay the manufacturing of the several other items. Recognizing that you will need to make some changes to the project, what do you do? Refer the penalty clause in the vendor contract, change the schedule baseline, coordinate the change across all impacted area, ensure that the change is reflected in the product definition. Okay, see, we should, what is being a project manager, our job is to ensure that projects remain smooth, and we should close the project or deliver the project's outcome as good as possible. Okay, so that should be our objective. So meeting the seeing the business case should be addressed and project objectives are met. That is ultimate objective of the PM. So if you refer the penalty clause in the vendor contract, you may execute the penalty clause, but will it help you delivering on time? Change the schedule baseline. Will it help you delivering on time? Ensure that the change is reflected in the product definition. You may reflect it. Will it help us delivering on time? The only action which can help us delivering on time or reduce the delay or make the situation a little better is C. Because there is a problem, something has got delayed. That means we have to be on that thing and see that how we can reduce that delay or eliminate this delay. A, B, and D will not help us in doing so. A better coordination will.
But even coordination, like we should be changing the schedule, right? Because the question says there will be a delay on manufacturing.
If you ask me, all are right actually. Everything has to be done. You may choose not to raise penalty clause or not, but you have a right to do so. Maybe schedule baseline may not be required because it is not a change in the scope. B may not be required, but you can do A, you can do C, D, and you can do D as well. But if you have to select one, and this is the C, which is actually the place which is the best. Maybe in some of the questions, best, most, first is not written, but we need to identify that, we need to see that what first action I have to take, what best action is for me out of given options. So instead of what is written here, what do you do? They might have written what best you should do or you can do in this situation. In fact, the question is same in both the condition. Even they write best or they don't write best. Because I have to select one, I have to reject others. So I cannot reject C over D. I cannot reject C over A.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Any 26, 27, 28, 29, 30?
Vivek, can we?
Which one?
16,
16. A project charter does following for the project manager: accept, formally recognize the existence of the project. That's right. Give authority to project manager to commit organization resources. Yes, that is the basic purpose of the charter. Provide requirements of the project. The project charter doesn't give the requirement. The idea of the project charter is to recognize that project is started, a project manager is assigned, document the project objectives and the business case, which is connected with the client objective and organization's objective. That is these are the basic reasons for the project. Link the project to strategy and ongoing work of the organization. That is another one, because the objective you specified in project charter, they are driven by from the two places. One is client objective, other is your own organization's objective, because projects are taken because of some strategic reasons.
Right.
You just pick up.
We can't consider. Yeah, we can't consider that high-level requirements are captured as part of the project charter.
Yeah, but project charter's work is not that. A, B, and D are actually the work of the project charter.
Right. Okay. I think I just got confused with C and D, and probably I should have evaluated based on the scope definition, high-level scope definition. It's not basically the requirements, I believe. Okay.
Yeah. See, most of the places what we need to see that the questions, multiple answers are right. We have to see which we have to sacrifice over the other.
Right. Okay.
Which one we have to deselect over the other.
Okay. I have another, quiz to review. 29.
29. Okay. You have just received a change from customer. Customer has analyzed that it does not impact the schedule and easy to implement. What should you do first? Okay. So request permission from project sponsor, send the change to change control board for approval, implement the change as soon as possible, evaluate the impact on the project.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this question, I just got confused in between B and D. When I was trying to evaluate, I came to a conclusion saying that first a particular change request has to pass through the change control board (CCB), and then we would, as part of the team, we would analyze the change impact, and then we would decide whether we need to accept it or reject it. But looking at the answer, it says evaluation.
Let me explain you. The change process is like that. When you when you get a change request, first thing you have to qualify it. Is this really required? Second thing, if it is really required, you have to do an impact analysis. Submit your change with the impact analysis to change control board. If change control board accept this, you go for implementation. Reject this, then anyway it is get rejected. This is the process. So what is D we are trying to do is
that is normally what.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in practice, sorry.
Go ahead. What is your question?
Yeah, in practice, normally what we do is whenever there is a change, we would have all the stakeholders as part of at least one stakeholder as part of one stakeholder from different divisions. Like it could be customer, it could be the organization, it could be the quality team. We would have one person representing the change control board, and that is the point where regular meetings are set up to review it and analyze it. So I was under the impression that the change request has to get into the change control board, and then further work on the impact on the project.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
To change this practice, what change control board or the person who is going to approve will approve. What he's going to evaluate? He's going to evaluate that what is the impact of this change. Now looking at the impact and looking at the importance of the change, that is what is evaluated. If importance of the change has a priority over the impact, or impact is less than the importance of the change, then change will get implemented. If the impact is more than the change importance of the change, then change get rejected.
No,
So
the
if we
confusion here
have
is
not
like,
done the analysis of the change and not submitted our estimates and the impact, then the approver will not be able to evaluate and say yes or no.
I mean, the confusion is whether the CCB board would accept the change first and then evaluate, or are we going to evaluate and then accept? Because
No,
in
always
my
evaluate
couple of
first, because
projects,
evaluation, your evaluation will be validated by the change control board, saying that is based on this evaluation, should we accept this change or not?
okay. But
See,
in
if
practice, we
you
are
accept
not
the
following
change
it.
and then evaluate, an evaluation, you find the impact is too views on the project, then it will create a problem with the project, right?
Okay.
So it is always you first qualify, then do an estimation, evaluate and estimate, submit your evaluation estimate to the change control board, whomsoever it is, it could be a client person. Then client person will, or the change control board will evaluate the impact over the importance of the change and may approve.
But this would still be part of monitor and control, right?
This is part of the monitoring and control, change control.
Evaluate the impact on the project. Is
This
still
whole
part
process
of
is
the
part of the change monitoring and control.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe in our current project we're not following as what is being specified in PMBOK. So currently what we do in our project
No,
is
let
like,
me tell you one thing. Though it is
changes to
defined in PMBOK, but it is right method also. So if you are using some other method, or you are saying first it is approved by change request and then you are doing impact analysis, then in many cases you may need to resend it to the change control board or customer to get another acceptance, or warn him that it is taking more time. Impact is so much. So my thing is that you should change the process in your project, because that's not the right way.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So many places the PMBOK is absolutely right, even on the ground. It's just not theory, I will say. Okay, so should we move to the subject, our scope management then now?
Yes, Vivek.
If you get any other question later also, you can always, we can discuss this tomorrow when we again meet tomorrow. You can always send me the question. We can take up another time also. Normally I keep normally 10-15 minutes, at least. I understand that in the beginning you should have some question and then we should address them at least. Okay, so the next one after framework and integration management is the scope management. The scope management is part of the triple constraint, the scope, time and cost, and they go hand in hand. And if you see in the project, anything changes in the project, any risk get materialized, any issue crop up, they have impact on scope, time or cost. So sometimes we also say this is a core of the project, and the project managers should always be looking to balance this triple constraint or this triangle. Okay, the idea of the project scope management is to take up only that work which is there in the scope and complete all the work in the scope. So complete everything whatever in the scope and only doing that thing which is in the scope, not doing anything else. That is the idea of the scope. So there are 6 processes. First, prepare a scope management plan which will guide us that how the scope will be defined, how the scope will be controlled, how the scope will be changed, like that. Then go ahead with the requirement, collect the requirement, define the scope, create work breakdown structure, scope statement and work breakdown structure together make scope baseline. And these validate and control are the monitoring process. In the validated scope, we go to the client and ask him to accept. So the idea of the validated scope is to get it accepted by the client. And the control scope is if there is a variations from the scope management plan, we need to fix it. Okay, so there are 4 processes in the planning and 2 processes in the controlling. There are 2 things always come into picture. One is the product scope, other is the project scope. So we should be very clear about it that product scope is about the functions and the features of the product to be delivered by this project. We have a project, this is going to deliver a product. Features and function of that products are product scope. And project is the process of producing this product. So the scope of the process of delivering this product is project scope. So simple example is that you need to give a project status report every week to your client. This is project scope. You have to deliver some feature of the product, like if you are delivering some software, then the specific function the software should do, that is a product scope. Like ticket booking. So it should be able to book the ticket after deploying this software. Then that booking ticket is a functionality which is a part of the product scope. During this project, when you are producing this product, you need to have various deliverables, like you have to deliver requirement documents. Have you delivered requirement document on time? This is a project scope. You need to get the approval from the client on requirement documents. So have you got the approval from the client? That is a project scope. Your service level agreement are part of the project scope. If a ticket is issued to you, you should respond in 24 hours. It's a project scope. You should fix it within 3 days. It's a project scope. Is that clear? So what is the primary output of the scope management plan is how the project scope will be defined, validated and controlled. So it will guide that how the scope will be defined and how it will be controlled, how we have to validate the scope of the project. Project charter will provide here some objectives and a very high level scope, and the project plan which will contains the project scope management plan. So output is the project scope management plan and project requirement management plan, because the next process is requirement, collection of the requirement. That means that you not only have how you manage the scope, but you have the plan for your requirement collection phase also. Okay, so nothing great to explain about expert judgment and meeting, but in the scope management plan, what is the output of this process is that how we going to define our project scope. It is all about how. Management plan means about how. What is the methodology we will use to create our work breakdown structure? What is our acceptance criteria? How the formal acceptance of the product will happen, or project deliverables will happen. how we are going to control, what methodology, what tools we are going to use to control the project scope. So everything, how, when it comes to how, you please refer management plan. And the requirement plan will talk about who are the people from whom we have to gather the requirement, what is the plan for the requirement gathering, what is the methodology we're going to use, how we will track this activity, how the changes in the requirement will be tracked, what is the matrix in the requirement, and are we going to like create some traceability matrix or not. So how are we going to conduct the requirement gathering? That is what the requirement management plan is. Okay, so next process is collect requirements. So before we define the scope, we have a collect requirements. Now in the reality, it may not be same sequence. In fact, PMI acknowledge everywhere the way things are defined in PMBOK, not necessarily in the same sequence things will happen on the projects. Many projects, the scope may be defined before you go for gathering the requirement, and it is absolutely fine. But it is recommended that you collect the requirement before you define the scope. But normally scope is defined when you bid for the project or when you put up a proposal. And if the client has approved the proposal, normally the scope is already defined in the proposal. But what recommendation here is that you collect the requirement, and if your scope definition is changing, then you redefine your scope from the proposal, because here the idea is about only taking care of the project, that how the project can be delivered properly, not what you have already committed to customer. If that requires redefinition, you please redefine it. Okay. Now, how are you going to collect the requirement? There are various tools and techniques in collecting the requirements. And what is the outcome of this is requirement document and traceability matrix. You will see the stakeholder management plan is there because stakeholders are involved in gathering the requirement. Requirement management plan is there, scope management plan is there. Okay, so interview, everybody understand, just go and talk to the stakeholders. Now I'm going to give you understanding and difference between what is a stakeholder register. Is a list of stakeholder. When we learn about stakeholder management, this will come into picture. A stakeholder register is a list of stakeholder which contains all the stakeholders of the project plus our strategy, how we're going to deal with them or how we're going to address their needs. Okay, so one of the technique here is the focus group. The next technique is facilitated workshop, and next activity is group activity creativity technique. So I will just give you the differences among them so that you are clear that what is what. The focus group is a group where we call subject matter expert together in one room or one place and try to close the requirements or understand the requirement of one function at a time. So subject matter experts of the same function. So if you are developing an SAP kind of or ERP system and you want to talk about HR function, then you bring only the subject matter expert in HR, not in the finance. But if you have developed HR module, you are going to develop the finance module also, but they're going to talk to each other sometimes. So that will become a cross-functional requirements because everything in the organization is related. So when you talk about cross-functional requirement, then we call a facilitated workshop where we call the subject matter experts or the stakeholders from different functions together at one place to resolve the cross-functional requirements or the conflicts in the requirements. Group creativity techniques are normally helpful in doing both the things because they are both are groups. So group creativity techniques are like brainstorming, calling people in a group and then doing a brainstorming. Nominal group technique is that when we do a kind of democratic, we use a democratic way, asking people to vote for particular idea, and you select that idea. The Delphi technique, I'm not sure if I explained this. The Delphi technique is a special technique in which we involve stakeholders, either giving them a questionnaire or giving them a survey to fill up. In that way, we can involve large number of stakeholders to get their inputs, even if they are not at the same place. If they are geographically diversified in many locations, you can send a survey or the questionnaire, let them respond, you get all the responses and compile them. So you have got information from a wide variety of the people. Delphi technique also say that you should not tell the people that who else is involved in this exercise. Idea and mind mapping is something like you might have seen a mind map diagram. Something goes like one, there is a, and then it goes like this, then there is another one, then it goes like this, there is another one here we talk about, then again 3 come out. So this kind of diagrams are normally a mind map diagram, and they are normally used to organize brainstorming. Otherwise brainstorming could be scattered and unorganized. So idea or mind mapping, such diagrams are normally helpful in aligning the group together and evolving the idea in a more structured manner. Same is affinity diagram. Affinity diagram is sometimes happen when you have lot of ideas or lot of things, lot of requirements have come to you and you are not able to sort them. So affinity diagram will help you to sort these things in a appropriated manner. So in an affinity diagram there are multiple criteria which we can apply. So we apply for one criteria, then we sort based on that. Then once we have sorted based on the first criteria, then we apply the second criteria, and then we further sort them. It is similar to a mind map, but it is a little more older technique than the mind map. The PMBOK not expect you to really become expert or understand in depth what is affinity diagram, but you should know that why it is used, what is the purpose of the affinity diagram. Now in a group you have to make decisions, and you should know what kind of techniques we normally use. These are some standard techniques. Unanimity is the best way, is the best type of decision making where everybody agree on one thing. Now that is a challenging task. That if you are 10 people in a group, all agree to one thing, if it is very quick, then there is a problem. If it is taking time, it may take too much of time, again a problem. So it is the facilitator's skill that how he creates a unanimity among the people. Many times it could be very challenging, but this is the best thing which can happen in decision making. Second thing is majority. Majority is again a kind of democratic way where you ask people that the idea which is liked by most of the people is normally selected. Plurality is something like a bigger like there are 20 people in a group and they are not able to decide anything, then what you do, you form a subgroup of 5 people or 4 people and tell them whatever you decide will be acceptable to this group. That is called plurality. Dictatorship though is little, you can say little about it. So you already know what is this. There's no need of discussion in this. Okay, I have already told you that this is going to happen this way. Question and survey, I think it's very clear. Normally it is used with along with the Delphi technique or similar kind of technique you can use to collect the information from a larger group, or when your customer is actually, say your customer is public, so you go for survey with what public is really want. Observation is one of the method, and this is normally used when you in the migration projects. So the system is already existing. You are maybe upgrading it to a new technology. You are migrating it to the new technology, or you are making some, you are porting it to some other platform or newer platform. So normally migration, when the system is already existing, then observation come into picture. What happens? The customer will tell you that you go through the system, you operate it and collect and write down the requirement. Or somebody is operating it, you watch that person. Or another method which is little newer, that there are softwares. You install the software on a computer and ask the person to work now. So when the person works, the software actually capture everything whatever this person is doing and create a movie kind of thing or a PPT kind of thing. So it will capture all the time, all the information is captured, and the benefit is that you not only capture information by seeing it, but you can repeatedly see it. And when like suppose at a later time also, when there is a confusion, you can watch it again. Prototype, I think most of the people will be understanding that a small portion or creating a model or showing some mock-ups or doing a small POC, proof of concept, that is called prototype. It will help to crystallize the requirements or or feasibility of the requirements. So there is a benchmarking. Sometimes customer will tell you that there is a software already, this is the kind of software what I need. So, or in the industry there is already some standard which are, or somebody has published it, you match that standard actually. Context diagrams, document analysis, there means some documents are available, you review them and collect the requirements. Okay, but the output is that you have come out with a requirement document which contains your all business requirements, functional requirements, non-functional requirements, quality related requirements, all the requirement related to the support and the training or any kind of like assumptions and constraints. If you have whatever you have like assumed during collecting these requirements, because many times everything is not available, you assume some things, but many times we don't write those assumptions. Those assumptions could be important because our requirements are based on those assumptions. So document all those assumptions and constraints, and also the acceptance criteria for the requirement, that specific requirement, how the specific requirement will meet the customer's need. So acceptance criteria not for the scope but the requirement. Along with that, we also create a traceability matrix. What is a traceability matrix? Many of you might have used it. It helps to ensure that all the requirements of the customer are being addressed in all phases of the project. So during the requirement, you collect the requirement. You list them in one of the Excel sheet or some spreadsheet. Then you go to the design. So next column is for the design. And you mention against each requirement that which section of the design is addressing this requirement. Okay, then you go to the basic development part, and in the development section you would say which code file or which developed portion is addressing this particular requirement. For every requirement you do so. Similarly, when you go to the testing case, you create test cases, you ensure that, or you write it down that which test case is for which requirement. So this way, this spreadsheet, give me a minute. This spreadsheet, like this may be like this. So this column is for the requirement, this column for the design, this column for the maybe coding, this column would be testing, this could be a acceptance kind of thing. So if you have a requirement R1, R2, R3, R4, you say that requirement R1 is addressed by design section 1.2.3. The 2 is addressed by 4.3. The third requirement is addressed by 3.2, section 3.2. Then the code you say A, B, C dot C or dot Java, whatever is actually for this requirement or the set of files. Or you say test case 1.2 is addressing R1. 2.2 is addressing the second requirement. The 3.1 addressing the third requirement, something like that. This way you ensure that every requirement is taken care of in all phases of the project. Okay. So far, any question?
Vivek, do we need to have acceptance criteria for each of these stages, like requirements, design, code, test, or do we have a common acceptance criteria for the complete cycle?
No, only for requirement. So requirement should, you can define somewhere in the requirement that how the requirements will be validated or accepted by the client.
Referring to the requirements traceability matrix.
Sorry?
Okay. No, I was referring to requirements traceability matrix, like, the matrix, do we need to have acceptance criteria for requirements, for design, for code, or do we have a common acceptance?
No, actually matrix is only talking of matrix, then nothing, it doesn't have actually design. It has only the name of the section of where the requirement is addressed.
Right,
So
right.
it does not have anything, it's just a table.
Yeah, I know. It's basically the document mapping across all these phases.
Exactly.
But how about the acceptance? Like, this requirement for particular requirement R1, 1.2.3 is been accepted as part of the design.
No, it is not like that actually. Requirements are accepted only when you deliver it. So in the requirement, you can mention that how a particular requirement, or may not be required for all the requirements, maybe for the critical requirement, that how these requirements will be accepted or validated by the client. That you can write in the requirement itself. During this time, you just mention that, okay, which section of design is addressing this requirement. This is what it is in the traceability. Traceability just to ensure that every requirement is taken care of.
I mean, there's the last column which says acceptance, right? for all this particular row? When do we update whether it is yes or no?
This one? We talk about this one?
Right. I'm talking about the
I
last
have
one.
written out this may or may not be. See, normally there is no standard format for the requirement traceability matrix. You can write acceptance or you may not write. I think it depends upon how your project is. So because I have taken a very just an example of that is very high level. I don't know what.
I think in that case,
may or may not. This column may or may not be there. You can also make only tick. Yeah, done. Something like that.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it could be like that, just true, false, accepted, not accepted. So you know that how many requirements have been already accepted by client. Okay. So we go to the define scope. And the main idea about here is to write a narrative statement of the scope. Identify what is in the scope and what is out of the scope. Okay, so you have scope management plan and project charter as an input, requirement document, because that will be used to define the scope. We do some product analysis and alternative identification to define the scope so that we can properly define the scope. And the output is project scope statement. The statement is a narrative statement of the scope. So what is the product analysis? Product analysis is like product breakdown. So you break down the product features in a hierarchical manner. Some system analysis, system engineering. You talk about like value engineering. Value engineering means you talk about various features or the various part of the product and talking about what value they are adding into the whole product. They are normal. These all terms have come from manufacturing. None of the term is from software, though they are sometimes being used in software also with the features, but all these things have come from manufacturing industry. Alternative generation is about checking the feasibility of the suggestion and seeing that what are the alternatives available and choosing the right alternative for the project so that you can define the project scope appropriately. Okay, this will be done in this manner. So you identify different approaches for doing the same thing, and then you selecting the right one or selecting the most convenient one or which is most appropriate for the project. Facilitated workshop, you know already. What you come out with is a project scope statement, which talks about what is in the project, what is out of the project, both the things, in the scope, out of the scope. It also talks about acceptance criteria, how the project will be accepted or the product will be accepted by the client. This is different from the requirement acceptance, where we talk about mainly about the specific requirement. Here we are talking about how the project sign off will happen. Okay, it describes all the deliverables, exclusions, that is what is not the scope, deliverables, what is in the scope, and especially the assumption and constraints. We should be definitely take care of those things. Once you have a narrative, a document type of thing which is defining the scope, you should make it more objective, and that is where the create WBS come into picture. Now, WBS become more objective in terms of understanding the scope. So you already have a scope statement. You take the requirement document and try to create a hierarchical structure of the requirement, or what is the various deliverable in the project. So hierarchical structure of the deliverables of the project. So that is the decomposition is what we use for, and the output is scope based time, which is a scope statement plus WBS dictionary. We'll talk about WBS dictionary also. So what a work breakdown structure? Work breakdown structure is something like this. Now we have various ways we can create a work breakdown structure. This is showing 3. Okay, there could be many other ways also. In the first approach, you see that first we have divided the project into phases. What are these phases? Requirement, design, development, verification, validation, deployment, like that. And then within these phases we define the deliverables, let's say requirement document and traceability matrix. And then in that requirement we define the different work package, or it could be a further subdivision deliverable, further subdeliverable 1.1.1, then the work package. Basically the last item in the hierarchy is called work package. So you see that last, if something is not going below this, it is called work package. Otherwise it is called a deliverable. So it's a hierarchical structure of the deliverables. So a higher level deliverable is divided into smaller pieces, and then further in the smaller pieces, then further in the smaller pieces, and somewhere we stop. And we stop at work package. That is the where we stop, it is called work package. So in the first approach, we have first divided the project into phases, and then deliverables in the phases, and then further subdivided and further subdivision. In the second approach, we have directly gone to the deliverables. We are not talking about any phases. We talk about what are the various deliverables, and then subdivide into smaller pieces, then further in the smaller pieces, and then at the end work package. Now if you look at it, you will see that different branches will go, the depth of the different branches could be different. They may not be at the same level. It all depends upon how much depth is required for that. And if the project is really too big, you first divide it into smaller projects and then go take either of this or this approach. The question here comes that where we should stop, where our work package should reach, where is the place, how much depth I should stop. Anybody can give any idea? Actual level, okay.
I think the work package, work package could be something which we could deliver it to the customer as a component or as a piece
probably
of
not. We may not deliver the work package. We may deliver this or this, something like that. Work package is a little smaller to deliver. The point at which we cannot break it down further. Not necessarily, because we may break down further also.
I think the point at which you cannot assign the responsibilities any further, maybe.
Responsibility could be one of the criteria, could possible, but not exactly what you're seeing. See, there are 2-3 things which we can apply here. One is, this must be a logical piece. See, there are two things we should address that. If it is too broad or too small, both are problem. Planning and tracking is difficult here because it is too broad, too big, so planning would be difficult, and tracking also would be difficult. If it is too small, the same thing come here, because we will be here. It will be difficult in case of what should be planned and how it should look like, that what how we are achieving what we have planned. Here we will be counting 10, 15 like that. You know, whenever we break down, every breakdown has an management overhead. If we break down or we go too smaller in breaking down, then our management overhead will be much higher, and the overall effectiveness will go down. If it is too broad, again the management will be required more because there is no clarity, is less. So a balance makes sense. So where we should reach the balance, there is no hard and fast rule for that. There are some guidelines, maybe you can follow one of them or mix of them. So one guideline is like that. You can prepare it so that you can assign it to a 1 person or 2 person or a group which is easily manageable. The idea is easy management. It could be easily estimated. It could be easily assignable. Now, what is the definition of easy? There is no definition of easy. Something easy for me may not be easy for you, or something easy for you may not be easy for me. So if you do the decomposition or I do the decomposition, they would be different. A junior person do the decomposition, a senior person do the decomposition would be different. So some ground rules which we will say that it is easy to estimate. It is easy to assign. Maybe you can assign to 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, or a group which is easily controllable. Second thing which we normally say, especially in the software project, we talk about 8-80 rule. 8-80 rule. Means from 8 hours to 80 hours. Means 1 day to 10 days. The work package should not be smaller than a day and should not be bigger than 10 days. Another ground rule which we talk about is that what is your review cycle? If it is 1 week, then your work package should go somewhat from half week to 2 weeks. Why? Because it is easily trackable. How? Because you will going to review the project every week. When you come here, this will be done, or maximum 2 such work package would be done. Easy to count. If it is of 2 weeks, then it will be 50% done, easily trackable. You need not to have a scale, a minute scale which we need to put, okay, 5% done, 10% done. No, we are talking about 50% done, or it could be 4 weeks also. Say 25% done. Even 25% does not need a scale. So it is easily trackable. So if your tracking cycle is 1 week, you may go up to 4 weeks maximum. Ideally 2 weeks or 1 week. Right? So these are some of the guidelines which you can apply. And use and can break down this, prepare this work breakdown structure. So what is the some of the important things here is that verifying that the degree of decomposition is necessary and sufficient, means creating a good balance. The ability to plan, manage and control the work enhance as the work decompose to a greater level. But if it becomes too greater or too minute level, then it becomes an overhead. Now after creating work breakdown structure, your full scope should be defined in that. It means if something is not in the WBS, you are not doing that work. And whatever is there in WBS, you are doing that work. You must do that work. So you get project scope statement is already available from the previous process. Define scope. WBS you get now. There is another thing called WBS dictionary. What is WBS dictionary? It's talk about all the attributes of WBS work package. What is, how much is the estimation? Dependency. Who will do? Resource. When it to be done? Or what to be done? The most important, what to be done in this work package. That is defined in work. So what exactly this work package is, what need to be done, and some related information is there in the work breakdown with the WBS dictionary. This is one of the examples. The two-level work breakdown structure. WBS dictionary provide more details, description of the WBS component, code of account identifier, description of the work, responsibility, and some other. Okay, so this is, so we have completed all 4 processes of planning. Tomorrow when we start from validate scope and we'll do the control scope and we'll move into the time management. Okay, you have any question? I will be happy to address that. Now, one thing I would want to tell people who have not attempted the quiz, that your time of attempting the quiz is part of 35 hours. So if you fail to attempt any quiz, you may not get the certificate of 35 hours because everything is getting recorded here. Second thing, if you will not do this quizzes, we will not be having this kind of discussion which we have in the morning or starting before starting or at the starting for first 1 hour of the Friday. To make it more meaningful, more useful and more like informative, it's important that everyone attempt the quiz and come out with and come back here with the doubts so that those things will be clear, because that is the real learning. When we go through PPT, several things go overhead, or we may not understand the gravity of the things when we are going through PPT. But when we attempt question, we try to recollect things, and real learning happen at that time, and especially when we discuss things here. So please go ahead and attempt all the quizzes, I will say as soon as possible. Any question?
Actually, Vivek,
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed one thing when I was doing the quiz that I actually analyzed where I went wrong in answering the questions, and I observed that those questions which have got the the factual things like the strong matrix, weak matrix, and the conceptual things, I made those right, but those questions in which you have to make a decision, I mean the situational decisions, which you can't learn from book basically, those things went wrong. So what is your suggestion in answering those kind of questions?
Okay, that will improve little over a period of time. So when we are going through, you attempt first quiz, second quiz, every time that is where the learning will happen when we discuss here. So you might have observed that every time when we discuss on a question, I talk about some ground rules that what should happen, like in the change management process. I say first you have to qualify, evaluate, submit to the change control board, and then it will be approved and you implement it. So this was discussed, but normally this kind of things go like we overlook such kind of things. But when we attempt quiz, then these things get inside us actually. You cannot forget now. So when more and more such discussion will happen, you will see that more and more situational questions you are handling much better actually.
Okay, fine Vivek, thanks.
And that's therefore the questions are important. My objective here is to improve the overall understanding of the project management through these questions. Sometimes the question may not be so logical, and sometimes the questions are very touchy, like adaptive and kind of thing. So they are just appear somewhere in the in a PM box. I normally do not bother too much about those things. Because 70–80% of the question on the exams are situational, 70% definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so fine, there is no question, then we can close this session now. See you tomorrow at the same time. And the people who have not attempted the quiz right now, I will suggest you to please attempt them. And if you have any question, please bring it up tomorrow when we start it. Thank you very much.
Vivek, thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.